Lazy at 28, a millionaire at 31. The secret of the 10 habits that changed her life. Transformation story. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you've wasted years of your life, entire years thrown away, living on autopilot, without purpose, without direction. The story you're about to hear is about a woman who had this realization in the most painful way possible and did something so radical, so extreme, that everyone around her thought she had gone insane. But what happened next? Nobody expected that. Stay until the end because this transformation will touch you in a profound way. Before we begin, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to know where the people who follow these stories of overcoming come from. And if you're not subscribed to the channel when everything seemed lost, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because every week there's a new story that will inspire you to never give up on your dreams. Letitia was 28 years old and lived in a small town, one of those where everyone knows everyone else's business, where neighbors know more about you than you know about yourself, where nothing, absolutely nothing, goes unnoticed. And precisely because of this, Letitia's life was the favorite topic of conversation in the neighborhood. She lived with her parents in a modest house on a quiet middle-class street where families had known each other for decades. Her father, Antonio, had worked as a bus driver for over 30 years. Her mother, Conceição, was a cleaning assistant at a municipal school. They were simple, honest, hard-working people who took pride in waking up early every day and earning their daily bread with dignity. Letitia was an only child. When she was born, she brought so much joy to that house that her parents did everything to give her a better life than they had. They saved penny by penny to put her in a private school. They worked double shifts to pay for an English course. They gave up everything so their daughter could have opportunities they never had. And Letitia started out well. She was a good student in elementary school, got reasonable grades, had some friends. But when she reached high school, something changed. She began to lose interest in studies, in friendships, in everything. She started locking herself in her room, spending hours and hours lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, doing absolutely nothing. At first, her parents thought it was just a teenage phase, that typical rebellion, that search for identity that every young person goes through, but the phase never ended. Letitia finished high school with terrible grades, with no prospect of passing any college entrance exam. She tried the entrance exam once, just to please her parents, and didn't even study. Obviously, she didn't pass. And there began a cycle that would last for years, a cycle of complete apathy, of total abandonment of her own life. Letitia didn't look for work. She didn't take courses. She didn't study. She did absolutely nothing. She woke up around noon, with lunch already prepared that her mother left ready before going to work. She ate without enthusiasm. She went back to her room. She spent the entire afternoon scrolling through social media feeds, watching other people's lives happen while hers was completely stopped. Letitia's room was a perfect reflection of the chaos that was her life. Clothes piled up everywhere, clean and dirty mixed together without any criteria. Dirty cups and plates accumulated on the bedside table, some with moldy food remains, plastic bags scattered on the floor, open drawers with clothes overflowing, the bed always unmade, sheets wrinkled, pillows thrown anywhere, the curtains permanently closed, creating a constant dimness that seemed to perfectly match her state of mind. The bathroom she used was always filthy, sink full of beauty products she bought on impulse and used only once, wet towels thrown on the floor, underwear tossed in any corner. Her father tried to clean on weekends, but within 2 days everything returned to its previous state. Conceição, her mother, suffered in silence. Every morning before leaving for work at 5 o'clock, she looked at her daughter's room and felt her heart tighten. She looked at that young, healthy woman with all the opportunities she never had, wasting everything, throwing her life away, and she didn't understand. She simply couldn't understand what had gone wrong. She tried to talk. She tried to motivate. She tried everything. Daughter, aren't you going to look for a job today? Daughter, how about taking a course? Daughter, clean this room for God's sake. This looks like a pigsty. But Letitia always had a ready answer. I'm not feeling well, Mom. I'll look tomorrow, Mom. I'm going to clean it, Mom. Empty promises that never materialized. Antonio, her father, had a different approach. He was harder, more direct. He came home after driving the bus all day, tired, with his back aching, and found his daughter in the same place where he had left her in the morning, lying in bed, on her phone. And he exploded. Letitia, How long are you going to live like this? Do you think your mother and I are going to support you forever? You're almost 30 years old and you do nothing with your life. Nothing. But his shouting didn't help. Leticia just waited for the storm to pass, mumbled an apology without conviction, and the next day, everything continued exactly the same. The neighbors loved to comment about the situation. Donna Marlene, who lived 3 houses down, was always saying to her friends, "Poor Antonio and Conceição, they work like convicts and have a daughter who's good for nothing. What a shame for that family." Donna Sonia, who lived across the street, added, "And to think they gave that girl everything. They paid for private school, courses, everything. And she wasted every opportunity. Now she lives there like a parasite, sucking up what her parents earn." And so the comment spread throughout the entire street, throughout the entire neighborhood. Leticia was known as that lazy girl who did nothing with her life. She was the example of what not to do, the case that mothers use to scare their daughters. Look, if you don't study, you'll end up like Leticia, with no future, depending on your parents. Leticia heard the comments. Even when they weren't directed at her, she knew. She noticed the judgmental looks when she went out to the market. She felt the veiled contempt in the neighbors' voices when they greeted her mother. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. But the pain wasn't strong enough to make her change, because she was trapped in a vicious cycle of self-sabotage and depression that she couldn't even name. Because the truth is that Leticia wasn't just lazy, she was sick. She was immersed in a deep depression that had started years ago and got worse little by little, so slowly that no one noticed, not even herself. She woke up without energy, without desire to live. She spent her days with an immense emptiness in her chest, a feeling that nothing was worthwhile, that she was worth nothing. And the worse she felt, the more she isolated herself. And the more she isolated herself, the worse she felt. It was an endless downward spiral. She gained a lot of weight. She went from 137 to 205 pounds in less than 2 years. She ate out of anxiety, out of boredom, out of emptiness. She ate hidden in her room, processed food, chips, sweets, soda. She ate until she felt physically sick, and then she felt guilty, and the guilt made her eat more. Her physical appearance deteriorated completely. Greasy hair because she went days without washing, skin full of pimples and blemishes from poor diet and lack of care, clothes always wrinkled and dirty because she didn't have the energy to even wash clothes. Deep dark circles from sleeping so poorly, waking up constantly during the night and spending her days in a constant state of drowsiness. Her childhood friends had disappeared long ago. At first they still called, invited her out, tried to include her. But after so many refusals, so many "I don't feel like it," so many "not today," they gave up. And Leticia was completely alone. Without friends, without a social life, with nothing but that dark room and that cell phone that was her only window to the world. She saw on social media her old classmates graduating, getting jobs, getting married, traveling, living, and she felt a corrosive envy. But she also felt that this would never be for her, that she had missed the timing, that it was already too late, that she was too old to start over, that she had no ability, no talent, nothing. Her parents didn't know what to do. They had already tried everything. They had been understanding, they had been firm, they had begged, they had yelled, they had ignored. Nothing worked, and they were getting older, getting tired, losing hope. Conceição cried hidden in the bathroom of the school where she worked. She cried because she saw other mothers proud of their children, and she felt ashamed. Ashamed and deeply sad to have a daughter who was wasting her life, who wasn't fighting for anything, who had simply given up. Antonio felt anger. Anger because he and his wife worked themselves to death, and their daughter didn't appreciate it. Anger because he never had the opportunities he gave her and still built a dignified life. Anger because he saw all her potential being thrown away. And then came that day, the day that would change everything forever. It was a Sunday afternoon. Antonio had just arrived from work. Yes, he worked even on Sundays to supplement the family income. Conceição was in the kitchen preparing dinner, and Leticia, as always, was in her room, lying down on her phone. Antonio entered the room without knocking. He was too tired to care about privacy. He looked at his daughter, at that deplorable room, at that situation that repeated itself day after day, and something broke inside him. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just said with a tired, defeated voice that hurt Leticia more than any scream ever would, "Leticia, I've given up on you." Leticia looked at her father, not understanding. Antonio continued, I've spent the last 10 years trying to help you, trying to motivate you, trying to save you. But I'm tired. I'm simply tired. Your mother and I work like convicts, and you waste everything. And the worst part is, you don't even care. You don't feel anything. You don't want anything. You've simply given up on life and want us to carry you on our backs forever. He paused, cleared his throat, and said the words that would echo in Letitia's head for the next few days. I gave you everything I could give. Now I have nothing more to offer you, because you don't want help. You want to stay there, in that mess, in that miserable life, and I can't watch this anymore. It's killing me inside to see my only daughter destroying herself and doing nothing to change. And he left the room, leaving Letitia alone with those words. She was paralyzed. For the first time in years, she really felt something. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was a deep, overwhelming shame that took over every cell of her body. She looked around the room, really looked. She saw the mess, the dirt, the neglect. She saw her reflection in the foggy mirror of the dresser. She saw that unrecognizable woman, almost 30 years old, fat, slovenly, without direction, without life. And for the first time, she understood what she had become. She understood the pain she caused her parents. She understood that she was wasting the only life she had. She understood that if she continued like this, in 10 years, she would be in the same place, only worse. Older, sicker, more alone, more lost. That night, Letitia couldn't sleep. She stayed awake thinking about how she had gotten there, thinking about all the choices she made, all the opportunities she wasted, all the years she threw away. And it was in that early morning, at 3 o'clock, that she had absolute clarity. She could continue that way and literally die in that bed, in that room, without ever having really lived. Or she could do something, anything, something that was different from what she had done until then. But Letitia knew it couldn't be another lukewarm attempt, another "I'll try to change" that would last 3 days. It had to be different. It had to be radical. It had to be something that would force her out of that deep hole where she was. She got out of bed, turned on the light, grabbed an old notebook and started writing. She didn't write dreams. She didn't write vague goals. She wrote rules. Hard, inflexible rules that she would follow without exception. First rule: wake up every day at 4:30 in the morning, before her father left for work, before anyone in the house woke up. 4:30 in the morning, every day, without exception. Second rule: run 5 kilometers every day, not walk, run. Even if she had to start walking because she was out of shape, the goal was to run 5 kilometers every day, without exception. Third rule: cold shower, every day, because she needed to shock the system, break the comfort pattern that kept her trapped. Fourth rule: completely clean the room every day before going out to run. Bed made, floor swept, everything organized, every day. Fifth rule: look for work 4 hours a day, send resumes, make calls, go personally to establishments. 4 hours dedicated exclusively to this. Sixth rule: study 3 hours a day, take online courses, learn anything that could improve her skills. Seventh rule: cook all the house meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner, to relieve her mother and to learn to eat properly. Eighth rule: do all the household chores, wash, iron, clean, everything. It would be her contribution while she had no income. Ninth rule: no phone before 7 at night, no social media. The phone would stay turned off in a drawer until evening. 10th rule: sleep at 9 at night, without exception, to guarantee the 7.5 hours of sleep necessary to wake up at 4:30. Letitia looked at the rules and felt afraid. Afraid because she knew it would be the hardest thing she had ever tried to do in her life. She knew her body would scream, her mind would beg to quit, that each day would be a battle. But she also knew this was exactly what she needed. She needed a complete revolution. She needed to completely destroy the person she was to build a new person from scratch. That same early morning, she cleaned the entire room. She threw away bags and bags of trash, old clothes she didn't use, papers, packaging, everything. She washed the dirty dishes that had been accumulating for days. She changed the bed sheets. She mopped the floor. She organized the drawers. She opened the window for the first time in months and let the fresh air in. When she finished, it was almost 6 in the morning. She was exhausted, but it was a different exhaustion. It was the exhaustion of someone who did something productive, not the exhaustion of existing aimlessly. Her parents woke up and couldn't believe what they saw. Letitia awake at 6 in the morning. Letitia, who had cleaned the room. Conceição thought she was dreaming. Antonio said nothing, just observed with distrust, thinking it was just another frustrated attempt that would last 2 days. But Letitia didn't stop. On that first day, after cleaning the room, she put on an old sneaker she had and went out to run. She couldn't run even 500 meters. Her body was so out of shape that she had to stop, panting, with stitches in her side, feeling like she was going to vomit. But she didn't give up. She walked the rest of the route. She walked the full 5 kilometers, even with her body aching, even with shame from the people who passed by, and looked at that fat girl trying to exercise. When she got home, she took a cold shower. The ice-cold water in contact with her skin was like 1,000 needles piercing her body. She almost screamed, but she stayed under that shower, breathing deeply, feeling each cell wake up by force. Then she prepared breakfast for her parents. They ate in silence. Still processing that sudden change, Letitia spent the next 4 hours looking for work. She sent over 50 resumes. She called dozens of places. She went personally to 5 establishments. She heard several no's, several, "We'll contact you," several, "We're not hiring now." But she continued. In the afternoon, she studied. She started a free online course in basic computing. She read articles about productivity. She watched motivational videos. She took notes. For the first time in years, her brain was being used for something productive. In the evening, she cooked dinner, simple food, rice, beans, chicken, salad, but made with care, with attention. Her parents ate, and for the first time in a long time, they had a complete homemade meal made by their daughter. At 9 at night, Letitia was in bed, exhausted, with her whole body aching, but with a strange feeling in her chest, a feeling that took her a while to identify, and when she identified it, she almost cried. It was pride, pride in herself, something she hadn't felt for so long that she had forgotten what it was like. On the second day, it was even harder. When the alarm went off at 4:30, every cell in her body screamed for her to hit snooze and go back to sleep. Her legs were sore from the previous day's run. Her body was tired. Her mind was inventing 1,000 excuses for her to quit. But she remembered her father's look when he said he had given up on her. She remembered the shame she felt. She remembered the promise she made to herself, and she got up. She cleaned the room. She put on her sneakers. She went out to run. This time she managed to run 1 kilometer before having to stop. She walked the rest. Cold shower. Breakfast, job search, study, household chores, dinner, sleep at 9. On the third day, the temptation to quit was at its peak. Her body was in shock. It wasn't used to that pace. Everything hurt. She was irritated, tired, really wanting to go back to her comfort zone. But she didn't go back, she continued. Day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, first complete week. The neighbors started to notice. Donna Marlene saw Letitia going out to run at 5 in the morning and commented to Donna Sonia, "Did you see Letitia running at that time in the morning? How strange. I wonder if she's right in the head." Donna Sonia responded, "It must be another phase. Within a week she'll quit and go back to being the same." But Letitia didn't quit. Second week, third week, 1 full month following the routine rigorously, and the changes started to appear. First, in her physical appearance. She lost 13 pounds in the first month, her face less swollen, her skin improving because of the healthy diet and the water she started drinking in quantity. Second, in the house. The house was always impeccable. Her parents didn't need to do anything anymore. Letitia cleaned, washed, ironed, cooked. The house had become a welcoming home again. Third, in her mind. Letitia felt she was becoming another person. She felt she was gaining control over her own life. For the first time in years, she woke up with purpose. In the second month, she got a job. It was a position as an attendant in a pharmacy, minimum wage, but it was a job. It was her independence. It was proof that she was capable. When she told her parents, Conceição cried. She hugged her daughter so hard that Letitia felt all the love and all the renewed hope of her mother. Antonio said nothing. He just squeezed his daughter's shoulder, with that rough way of showing pride. But the neighbors didn't know what to think. That sudden and radical change was too strange. Letitia, waking up at 4:30 in the morning. Letitia, running every day, rain or shine. Letitia working. Letitia who had turned completely inside out. Donna Marlene said to the group of neighbors, "People, there's something wrong with that girl. Nobody changes like that overnight. That's not normal. She must be in some cult. Something like that. Donna Sonia agreed. True. She's obsessed. That's not healthy. She lives in that rigid routine, doesn't talk to anyone, doesn't go out to have fun. She even looks like a robot. Donna Fatima, who lived next door to Leticia's family, added, I hear her leaving every day before 5 in the morning. Every single day. Raining, cold. It doesn't matter. That's not normal. She must have had a breakdown. And the gossip started. People said Leticia had gone crazy, that she was sick, that all that discipline was obsession, that she had traded one extreme for another. Leticia heard the comments. She saw the looks. She noticed the whispers. And at first it hurt. She thought, could they be right? Am I exaggerating? Isn't this healthy? But then she looked at where she was before and where she was now. Before she was a depressed, obese person with no future. Now she had a job, had health, had discipline. Before she was a burden to her parents. Now she was a help. Before she had nothing. Now she was building a life. And she understood that people judge what they don't understand. That for those who live in mediocrity, any effort above average seems like madness. The 3rd month passed. The 4th, the 5th. Leticia not only maintained the routine, but perfected it. Now she could run the full 5 kilometers without stopping. She had lost 46 pounds. She had a completely different appearance. At the pharmacy where she worked, she was quickly noticed. She was punctual, dedicated, polite to customers, proactive. In 4 months, she was promoted to cashier with a small salary increase. She started saving every penny she earned. She had a goal, to leave her parents' house. Not because she didn't like them, but because she needed to prove to herself that she was capable of being independent. Her old friends started sending messages. They saw the changes on social media because Leticia had started posting again, but now they were photos of her running, of the books she was reading, of the healthy meals she prepared. Julia, an old school friend, sent a message. Lee, what an incredible transformation. How did you do it? Give me the diet, the workout, everything. Leticia responded, there's no miracle diet, there's no secret. There's decision, there's discipline, there's waking up every day and doing what needs to be done even when you don't want to. Julia insisted, but how do you stay motivated? Leticia explained, I don't wait to be motivated. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. I do what I have to do regardless of how I feel. And over time, things that were difficult become automatic. After a year following that routine, Leticia was another person. Literally, she had lost 92 pounds. She was at 113 pounds, healthy, strong. She was running 10 kilometers a day now. She had been promoted again at the pharmacy and was earning almost double her initial salary. She had saved enough money to rent a small apartment. When she told her parents, Conceição cried again, but this time with pride. Antonio hugged his daughter and whispered, I always knew you were capable. I was just waiting for you to discover that too. And the neighbors who called her crazy started to change their opinion because they saw the results. They saw a girl who was lost, destroyed, without hope, transform into a strong, independent, successful woman. Donna Marlene, who criticized so much, stopped Leticia on the street one day and said, You know, Leticia, I owe you an apology. I thought you had gone crazy with all that routine, but now I see you were very brave. You did what had to be done, and look where you got to. Leticia smiled and responded with generosity. No hard feelings. Donna Marlene. People don't understand what they haven't lived. Today, 3 years after that early morning when she decided to change, Leticia is a manager of a pharmacy chain. She has her own apartment. She has a car she bought with her own money. She continues waking up at 4:30 in the morning. She continues running. She continues studying. She continues developing. And her parents, who before suffered from shame, now overflow with pride. Conceição tells everyone about her daughter's transformation. Antonio shows photos of her to his co-workers. The house on Acacia Street, which before was known as the house of the lazy girl, is now known as the house of that incredible girl who completely changed her life. The neighbors point to Leticia for their daughters and say, Look at her there, that's Leticia. She was completely lost and managed to turn it around. If she could do it, anyone can. And Leticia walks down the street with her head held high, not out of arrogance, but because she knows exactly where she came from and how hard she fought to get where she is. She knows she saved her own life, literally, because she was killing herself little by little in that life without purpose. Leticia's story shows us that it's never too late to start over, that no matter how deep you've fallen, you can always get up. But this only happens when you make the decision to change. Not a weak decision, full of ifs and buts. A firm, definitive decision with no turning back. Letitia didn't change because she got motivated. She changed because she made a decision and created a system of discipline that forced her to keep going even on difficult days, especially on difficult days. And you, are you living the life you want, or are you just existing? Are you building something, or are you wasting your days? Are you developing, or are you stagnant? If Letitia's story touched you in any way, if you've been through a similar transformation, or if you're trying to change now, leave your experience here in the comments. Let's create a chain of inspiration so that more people have the courage to start over. And don't forget to subscribe to the Principles That Transform channel. Turn on notifications and leave your like on this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because maybe this story is exactly what someone needs to wake up and realize that it's possible to change, that it's never too late, that each day is a new opportunity to start again. See you in the next video with another story of overcoming that will prove to you that no matter how difficult it is now, there's always a path to a better life. See you next time.